Hey, what's up? It's your angry Injun. Um, kind of been away a little bit. I've been dealing with some things. Um, but today I'm going to discuss uh, Native American slavery in America, and I'm going to touch on some things about the genocide because there seems to be a lot of misconceptions and misinformed information, and I'm going to debunk as many myths as I can about my ancestors and possibly yours. Um, so a lot of white people want to believe, and some black people want to believe that only African Americans were enslaved here in America, and that's false. Um, Back in 1502, there is actually a recorded interaction between some of the first European explorers that brought the first African American over, and there's actually recorded um, historical documents or actions that can prove this. But us Native Americans intermingled, or how do I want to say, we formed a relationship with African Americans that were brought here from the Europeans. Now, there's two different types of slavery, and I'm not talking your Bible bullshit. This is actual slavery that happened here on Earth that can be proven with history and science. One is the European, I guess, type of slavery, what we would call it, of the African Americans that was basically used to exploit labor um, at the cost of the people. And there's also a slavery called, I don't know what you would call it. They call it chattel slavery, is the slavery I'm talking about, with the labor that basically just used people. Our slavery was similar, but what would happen or would occur is that we would have war with other tribes, and the winning tribe would usually take the defeated. And there would also be like some kind of ritual, like maybe a mutilation or maybe a torture. Um, Basically, what that would do is say, and I'm just using examples, okay? Don't quote me on this. It's not historical fact. I'm just using this as an example. Let's just say some Chippewa attacked some Potawatomi. Chippewa won. They would take the Potawatomi warriors, or those that were left, and they would convert them into Chippewa tribe. Um, Either some of them would be made warriors for other future wars, or they would become like just members of that society, just very low members of it. So there was a difference. Um, then the invasion happened, and basically Europeans would kidnap Native Americans, sometimes by the hundred, sometimes by 500, and they'd ship them over to Europe for slave trade, and they would also send them down to the south and southeast here in continental America for slave trade, usually like tobacco fields, cotton, things that required a lot of manual labor. And so this went on up until the Civil War. Two tribes, Cherokee and the Creek, actually participated in actively, were part of the European slave trade. There is documentation of Cherokee publications offering rewards for their runaway slaves, also that they were selling them. So that is true. But those were the only two tribes that I've seen, and that many people that have studied history can find any accord of, is the Creek and the Cherokee. Choctaw did some. The key is that you got to remember what the five civilized tribes were considered, and this was before um, the Civil War. All five civilized tribes were against slavery. Now, the misconception is because that they sided with the Confederacy during the Civil War that we were for slavery, and that's not why they supported or aligned or whatever with the South. The reason that Native Americans aligned with the South was because we had already felt that the U.S. government invaded us and took away our land, and the South had kind of made promises that maybe we'd get some of that back or whatnot. So America to Native Americans at that time, especially the 5 civilized tribes, because that's what history quotes, is that we had already viewed the government as no good. They violated treaties, they killed us, etc. So a lot of them aligned with the South, well, all 5 actually did, aligned with the South and the Confederacy in their Civil War as a means of showing solidification or camaraderie towards the government for their treatment of our people. And in no way did the 5 civilized tribes support slavery as the way that you and I know it, that we were taught in school with the African Americans. We were victims of it. Our slavery was different than their slavery. And the Bible people will tell you this too. But the funny thing is with the Bible argument, that goes along with the whole European thing. So, why were Native Americans and African Americans targeted as slaves? Well, there is historical record of Christopher Columbus when he came and got lost, that he went back and told the Spanish that we were bulky, we were muscular, and we'd make great slaves. We weren't smart. That is recorded. That is a fact. Can't deny it. It was said. They also thought the same thing about blacks. 2 reasons. One, we weren't wasp. And if you don't know what a wasp is, you should probably go look it up and know it's not the insect. A wasp is a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, okay? AKA white people. It's people that invaded America from Europe. That's what a wasp is. To the wasp, the Native American and the African American were not equal. We were considered less. Therefore, we made the perfect slaves. And we weren't Christians. Now, you can tie that into many things in history. And I'm going to tell you, religion is the cause for every frickin' war and corrupt government in this world. Throughout history, from the beginning of time till now, that is the #1 cause. So, what these people did is they came to America and they said, Native Americans and black people are unworthy, and we will enslave them, and they did, up until the Civil War. Now, were there Native Americans that fought for the Union? Of course there was. But the misconception that we supported the South and that we supported slavery is wrong. We were tied to horse poles, we were beaten, we were forced to till fields, we were forced to pick tobacco and cotton and carve, railroad work, you name it, we had to do it too. And here's a fun fact, we weren't even granted citizenship until 1924. And we still weren't even free. We didn't get freedom until 1978. And that was with the passage of the Indian Religious Act of 1978. I suggest that you look it up. It was essentially illegal to be Native American in America prior to 1978. Yeah, we could say we were, but we weren't allowed to dance. We weren't allowed to have powwows. We weren't allowed to have medicine men. We weren't allowed to do our ceremonies. So when I hear this religious freedom argument, it makes me laugh. Look, the last count was 150 million Native American women and children from the genocide committed by the U.S. government. That's a lowball count. Forced assimilation happened. Okay? It's real. It continues. It happens in Canada right now as we speak. And it still happens here in America. If this makes me an asshole for telling everybody the truth, so be it. But I wouldn't be the angry Injun if I didn't tell the truth. And what I get angry about is people telling lies and not spitting the truth. Yes, 2 tribes sold slaves. Absolutely. Cherokee and Creek. Made me sick when I read about it. But it's fact. I can't deny it. And until their constitutions were passed, it was legal. Once their constitutions were passed for their tribes, it was considered illegal, and that started a whole bunch of chain reaction of who you could marry and whatnot. So that's where your Cherokee Princess Syndrome also comes from. Anyways, I went over on this video. The opening was a tribe called Red. I suggest that you check them out, especially all you young Injuns that don't like traditional music. You may like these guys as they mix it up with some techno, and they also have one with like video game noises like Pac-Man and Megatron and all that as well, so it's kind of cool. David Waite kind of turned me on to them, so I gotta give a shout out to him. Anyhow, it's a shout out to my cousin Darren. He's the one that asked for this topic to be discussed. I hope I answered some questions. You guys got any more questions, feel free to Facebook or comment here and ask me. My Facebook is Injun Chippewa Joe, aka the Angry Injun, or you can comment here and I'll get them as well. All right, peace out.